Dystopia.
Hello, my name is Crystal, and today we're introducing you to the concept of dystopias. Welcome to the show. In today's modern world, dystopian literature has become extremely prevalent. You can probably name several dystopian stories right off the top of your head. Maybe you gravitate towards famous examples, like 1984 or Brave New World. Maybe something newer is more your speed, like Ready Player One or The Hunger Games. The truth is, there are so many more examples out there. Maybe you came up with some totally different examples in your own head. Whatever story or stories comes to mind, they all have a few things in common. So, what exactly is a dystopia? The word dystopia can be defined as, quote, an imagined state or society in which there is great suffering or injustice, typically one that is totalitarian or environmentally degraded. That's according to the dictionary. The word dystopia is derived from Greek roots meaning bad place, and it's commonly considered to be the opposite of utopia. It's from those utopian stories that the inspiration for dystopian stories was born. And the word utopia also has Greek roots, meaning no place or good place. So, given that they seem to have opposite meanings, Yvonne Shao summed this up really nicely, calling the concept of utopia, quote, the yin to dystopia's yang. The first public usage of the word dystopia is credited to John Stuart Mill, way back in 1868. However, it wasn't until the 1920s and 1930s that the genre really took hold and really became a defined genre. Yvonne Shao also stated, quote, it makes sense that the modern dystopian novel emerged at the turn of the 20th century. It was a time of political unrest and global anxiety, with 2 world wars awaiting in the near future. Well, I don't know about looming world wars right now, but political unrest and global anxiety sure sound familiar in these modern times. Perhaps that's why our societal fascination with dystopias persists so strongly today, and maybe even is growing. So, what about common themes? What are some common literary themes for the genre? One of the most common threads in a dystopian story is political oppression. Perhaps the author sees some political conflict as dangerous or potentially disastrous. They will likely entwine cautionary messaging about that issue into their story. Religious theming is also common in dystopian writing. Usually some kind of extremist dogmatic organization becomes a tyranny that manipulates its followers and enforces obedience. Then, of course, there's also environmental themes, or stories demonstrating a conflict between nature and mankind. Now, these are not necessarily every theme possible for the entire genre, but it does seem to cover a large majority of ideas explored by popular dystopian works. Regardless of the individual theming, dystopian literature typically has something to say. I think it's important to look for and think about the deeper messaging hidden within these works. So, why dystopias? Well, like I just mentioned, the genre is often meant to make a statement about our real and current world. It's the author's attempt to bring attention to problems they see in society by exaggerating them within their story. This type of writing takes the reader through a thought experiment. Ursula Le Guin says that the quote, "The purpose of a thought experiment is not to predict the future, but to describe reality, the present world." After looking at that quote, and you maybe consider it from that perspective, now you can see how the trends of the genre might reflect the biggest collective fears or concerns of the time period in which they're written. For example, with growing attention on global warming and climate change, we see an increasing number of dystopias that focus on how humans can deal with the problems of a destroyed environment. Well, now that you've been thoroughly introduced to the concept of dystopias, join us next time when we start to deeply explore specific dystopian literature or stories. Our first story to discuss will be Snowpiercer next episode. Thank you for listening. This has been another day of dredging through dystopia.